Hi everyone, welcome back to Out of the Box Physical Therapy. I'm continuing the series on finding that first job as a physical therapist. My first two videos were on where to apply and then some tips on the interview process. And today I'm giving more tips about how to pick between several options you may have on the table when it comes to ultimately saying yes to that first job out in the field. First tip I wanted to give you today is that before you take a job position, observe in the clinic. Whether you observe them before or after you've been offered the position, I highly recommend, really think it should be a requirement that you take time to go and check it out before you say yes to the job position. Here's a few reasons why. They're going to be making it sound like the best job in the world, obviously, during the interview. They're going to be covering up any potential issues, more than likely, the clinic could have or that maybe other employees have with them. So if you take that time to go and observe, you're going to have a chance to get a real side-in look on what, one, physical therapists look like. Two, you can ask those other physical therapists some of the same questions you ask your potential future employers, such as how many patients that they see in a given day. Is it the same number that the employers told you? Because if it's not, to me that's a red flag, and you need to keep an eye out for those kind of red flags, because that could be a little tip that they're not being very honest and that you might have a lot more patients than you were originally told. I also think it's a great idea just to keep an eye out on how those physical therapists are treating their patients. You know, do you agree with the way they're interacting with the patients? Just the exercises that they're giving, explanations that they're giving. Not that every single physical therapist in a clinic will necessarily uphold what the whole vision of the company is, but I still feel like it's a pretty good indicator of what the mentorship's going to be like and what the push is going to be like in the clinic. I mean, if you feel like they're not really paying attention to their patients, or that they're running around kind of giving half effort to each individual patient, that's probably going to be you if you take the job. That's just kind of my opinion. Again, every PT can go into a job position and handle it a little bit differently, but I think it's just incredibly valuable to take time to go into a clinic, take a peek, see what it's like. What do the PTs look like? Do they look happy? Do they look exhausted? Do they look miserable? When they're talking about their supervisor, is it one of respect and admiration? Is it maybe not? You want to really pay attention to those vibes you might be getting from your future coworkers in terms of how they're making you feel, if they're making you feel energetic about the possibility of working with them, or if they're making you feel a little nervous or weighed down and just kind of sucking the energy right out of you. So there's my tip number one for that. Tip number two, which I alluded to a little bit in my first tip, but I'm going to re-emphasize it again, is when you walk out of an interview, I think it's really important to take time to reflect on how you felt about it. Like, did the people you talked to make you feel comfortable? Did you feel energized after walking out about the potential of working with those people? How did it make you feel? Do you feel like you're a good fit for them? You really want to ask yourself those questions. Like, don't get stuck on just numbers or benefits, but how did it feel just being there? And back to my first tip of observing in the clinic, just how did it make you feel walking around in the clinic, seeing people do their thing? Did it seem like an environment that you could see yourself plugging into? I know it's hard to have the most accurate answers to those questions just from one visit, don't get me wrong, but in the very least, if you felt really, really off about it just from one visit, I mean, that's a pretty good tip that maybe it's not a place for you. Tip number three is I really suggest that you get more than one interview. what's the point of just doing one? I mean, you're a new physical therapist. There's so much to learn about what you want, where you want to work, and what have you. Never just do one interview. Even if the first interview sounded absolutely great, you never know. Maybe the second or third interview is going to be even better. There's a lot to learn that first year. So don't think that, oh, I'm just going to settle for this first one. Sounded fine, whatever. Kind of meets my goals and has a salary that I want, blah, blah, blah. Go get a few more interviews. I mean, it's good practice. Even if you're really kind of like, I don't think I'm going to take this job, go ahead and try and get an interview. It's good practice. You never know how you're going to feel when you leave that second interview. Trust me. The next tip I wanted to give you has to do with negotiating. I think that's a really intimidating thing for a new physical therapist to do. I think it's easy for us to get a little down on ourselves and feel like, I'm a new physical therapist. Like, what gives me the right to ask for a little bit higher salary or a little bit better benefits? But I don't think that's the right way to treat yourself. I think it's totally okay to negotiate and ask for a little bit more, especially if you had a budget in mind and a salary in mind, and this one's just a little bit less. At worst, they're going to say no. Whatever. Honestly, I've come to find I don't think companies mind if you ask. Though I will say it's good to do a little bit of research and have an honest request in mind. You don't want to just ask for some outlandish request on the salary. Like, do a little bit of research, see what the typical salary is for physical therapists in that area, in that setting. Maybe even ask some friends again who are fellow PTs in the area what their salary looked like their first year as a physical therapist, and that will really help you know if you're making a realistic request. Because ultimately, you never know if a company will be willing to give you a little extra. Every company's different. I know I got a job offer from a company that is a part of a much larger corporation, and their offers to new grads apparently are pretty well set, and the people who I was doing the interview with at least stated that they didn't really have a lot of control over offering more than that to new physical therapists. However, another company that offered me a job, which is a smaller company, has a little bit more power in terms of negotiating those salaries. They offered me more right off the bat when I asked them about it. Some of the tips I'm giving you about negotiating also goes back to my last tip, where I was saying you should get more than one interview. Because if you get several different job offers and you let some of them know that, hey, by the way, I'm looking at other positions, but I'm going to get back to you right away, they suddenly know that they have a little bit of competition. That's going to get their wheels turning a little bit as to whether or not they feel like they loved you so much and that you're such a good fit that they might actually bump up the salary a little bit or the benefits a little bit in order to get you over the other company snagging you first. And like I said, I actually did have that happen. I had one company that did offer me more. They met my request actually on the salary because they felt like I was a really good fit for the company. I actually ended up, and I think it's important to share this, I ended up not taking that job, even though I really appreciated that they seemed to really value me and that they really wanted me to be a part of the company and that they even met that kind of request. There were other reasons I ended up picking a different company over them, which ultimately had to do with better benefits overall, and I liked the direction the company was going. And the company that had offered me a little bit higher salary was going to be moving to a new location pretty soon. And I was a little intimidated by that as a new physical therapist. I wanted to be in a clinic that was a little more grounded, more stable, already had pretty good mission on where they were and where they were heading and what have you. So that's why I picked the other job, even though the salary was slightly less. They did offer me a bonus that ultimately kind of equaled out. So just because a company offers you more money, I'm not saying that that's a better one to go with. All I'm saying is don't be afraid to ask for more. At worst, they'll say no. Whatever. It's not a big deal. The last and most ultimate tip I want to give you piece of advice I want to give you is that you are never stuck. Okay, if you end up taking a job offer and working with that clinic or that facility, wherever it may be, and you're finding yourself totally miserable and burnt out and overworked and unhappy, for goodness sake, like don't stick around with a company like that. Don't let a bad company ruin your love and your passion for the profession. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all about sticking it out for a while. But in my opinion, if after 2 to 3 months, let's just say that 2 to 3 months of being in the company, you feel really unhappy, like you don't have any guidance, that you're just absolutely exhausted and you're spending hours finishing notes each night and you don't even really have a life. I mean, that's not healthy and it's not fair. And there's clinics out there that are going to take better care of you than that. I do think if there's issues and you're seeing them in the beginning, that you really need to take time to reach out to your supervisor and give them a chance to fix those issues or to provide resources to you to make the situation easier for you and to allow you to flourish as a physical therapist. So do give the company a chance to improve things for you. But if you've reached out several times to the people above you about the situation and how the job is impacting you and the issues that you're having with the company and nothing changes, like that company doesn't have your best interest in mind. And that's what it's going to be like for as long as you're with the company. So get out, go find a different job. I promise you that there's companies out there that are going to take better care of you and really care about whether you're loving the job and having time to really take care of the patients and having time to really take care of yourself. So just to wrap up the tips I gave you in this video, be sure you take time to go and observe at the clinics that are offering you jobs. See what it's like, get the inside scoop, ask those people working there, your future coworkers potentially, how their experience has been. Take time to really reflect on how you felt when you left interviews, how the people you talked to made you feel, what it felt like being in the clinic. Did it feel like a good fit for you, or did it feel a little off? Take time to get not just one interview, get several interviews so that you have a pretty good look on what the offers are out there for you. You never know if the first offer, second offer, third offer is going to be the best and which one's going to be the best fit for you. And I also want you to not be afraid to negotiate salary or benefits. Just because you're new doesn't mean you have to settle for less. At worst, your offer will be turned down, but that's okay. Take time to be confident, do a little research, figure out what a realistic request is, and go ahead and ask it. And then ultimately, please don't feel like you're stuck. If you find yourself in a really poor setting, being poorly taken care of, and giving really poor quality treatment to patients, move on. Go somewhere else. Don't let it ruin your love for the profession. I'll see you next time, guys. I'm going to have some more videos coming up on experiences as a first-year physical therapist and more. Take care.